Hi there, Sherry Schreiber of GettingBetter.com. And since the holidays are approaching and we all tend to, well, most of us tend to overeat at holiday time for a plethora of reasons, not the least of which is emotional. I thought I'd talk about proper food combining today. Don't be thrown off by the name. I just want to teach you about how your body utilizes food and what it does with it once you chew it and swallow it. So if you have ongoing weight problems, your weight is yo-yoing, you're always dieting, you're always counting calories or fat grams or whatever the hell you do, this is going to eliminate all that. I'm going to teach you to eat virtually everything you want. Hang on, I'm adjusting angle here. Teach you to eat everything you want, anytime you want, and not only lose weight, but maintain your weight. Never have to worry about gaining weight again. I know this sounds fantastical. I know this sounds magical, but I've been doing this for, gosh, almost 30 years. And it's the only thing that's ever worked for me. I've been on every diet that has ever been invented. When I was younger, for many years, most of my life, in fact, well through my 40s, I was a compulsive overeater, compulsive eater. And just to give you frame of reference, I'm 5'8", and I weigh about 115 or 16 pounds. Now, I have a very small frame. I'm tiny, and long, slender bones. But even so, for a person my height, you would expect perhaps I'd weigh more. So I want to teach you about this because for me it's been like discovering the fountain of youth. And this happened by accident. I was driving in my car many years ago. This was around the age of 40, maybe just before I turned 40 or right around that birthday. I'm in my car, and I never listened to talk radio, but as I'm channel surfing to get to my oldies stations and one that I did enjoy listening to for a while, I caught the tail end of a broadcast. It was an interview show with Harvey and Marilyn Diamond, who years ago wrote the book Fit for Life. And then they had republications after that. But the basics were being talked about that are presented in this book during this radio broadcast, this interview show with Harvey and Marilyn Diamond. And I came in on the part where they were talking about what your body can utilize, what can be digested, so that your body can utilize those nutrients for healing muscle and flesh and growth and keeping your hair and skin healthy, because you're actually digesting and absorbing your proteins and all the amino acids and such in them, which keeps your hair vibrant and shiny and healthy and planted in your head. So they were talking about how our stomach knows to secrete the proper enzymes to break down and digest what we're putting in it. And what they were saying on the radio is that when you eat proteins, flesh proteins, eggs, cheese, fish, yogurt, cheese, oh, I said cheese, I think, beef, lamb, chicken, your stomach secretes hydrochloric acid to break down that protein you're putting in it. so it can be digested and utilized by your body to keep all the parts working and healthy. On the other hand, when you eat starches, pastries, breads, rice, potatoes, anything of a starchy nature, carbohydrate, starchy nature, your stomach knows to secrete alkaline enzyme to break down those types of food. So what happens when you're eating protein and starch together? Let's say you stop and have a magnificent hamburger somewhere in a bun. Well, your stomach has to secrete both those enzymes. It has to secrete alkaline enzyme and acid enzyme to try and deal with that meal you've just eaten. And what happens when you mix alkaline and acid? They neutralize each other. So basically nothing gets digested to where it can be utilized by the body. And the food basically sits there in your stomach in a low temperature oven, collecting bacteria. If you have French fries alongside that hamburger, it's even worse. Because your body's trying to digest the protein of the burger and the starch of the fries and the bun. This food will sit in your stomach and keep it's kind of like, it'll keep building bacteria. It's kind of like, for this Thanksgiving perhaps, if you buy a turkey and you put it in a 98-degree oven, even if it's for lots of hours, it's not going to cook. It's just going to be at a temperature that's not enough to cook it, but keeps it warm enough to start building bacteria. Same thing happens in your stomach. So this is why we have a lot of health issues: acid reflux, burping, belching, gassiness, indigestion, is because this is undigested food that just can't be utilized by your body to maintain it. So what happens is several hours after this food has been just sitting there and collecting bacteria, your infinite wisdom of your stomach resecretes those enzymes to try and digest that food. And once again, it secretes acid enzyme to break down the burger part of your meal, and alkaline enzyme to break down the bun and the French fries. And once again, nothing can get digested and assimilated by your body. Finally, the natural peristaltic action of your stomach forces that food out of the stomach region and pushes it down into your intestinal tract. Now, the intestinal tract in a human is very, very, very long. I don't know how long it is, how many yards it is, but the small intestine is really, really long. So all of this undigested, full of bacteria food is going all through your intestinal tract and continues to putrefy in your system, robbing you of focus, mental focus, energy, vitality, and your body can't utilize it for healing, for growth, for your hair, for your skin, for your fingernails. Those are all made up of protein, and that protein has to be properly digested so it can be assimilated by your body. Okay. So the main principle of proper food combining is never, ever, ever, if you can possibly avoid it, Never, ever, ever mix starch and protein in the same meal or even near each other. You can have all the vegetables you want with either starch or protein. Let's say you want to go out for pasta and you order pasta primavera. So it's only got julienne vegetables in it. Or it's got, maybe you order it with basil, tomato, and garlic. Really tasty. Try to avoid the cheese. If you're trying to lose weight and you start eating this way, try and avoid the cheese. That's a protein. You can have all the fats you want in this way of eating. All the fats you want. Don't have to watch your calories. Don't have to count your fat grams. That's absurd. You don't need that. You don't need to worry about that. Just separate your starches and your proteins. Now, this doesn't mean that if you get a raging hard-on for a pizza or a corned beef sandwich, you can't allow yourself to have that once in a while. Maybe a couple of times a year. I get a craving for a pizza. I don't have pepperoni put on it anymore. That's just too heavy a combination for my system. But I love pepperoni. Might fry a bunch of it up in the pan and crisp it up and throw some garlic powder on it and enjoy that on its own. But on my pizzas, I just tend to order just a plain cheese pizza with maybe some garlic or onions or whatever. It doesn't mean that if you want an ill-combined meal where you're going to mix starch and protein, you can't do that once in a blue moon. This way of eating is not about deprivation, because you can eat anything you want. I can even teach you how to eat sweets and sugar, but you got to be real careful, because I overdid it years ago and I'm paying the price for that now. Used to take myself out to dinner and have a couple of hot fudge sundaes. That was my dinner, and I ate nothing else around it. But it puts a tremendous strain on your pancreas and on the need for insulin production. So you have to be careful and cautious with this stuff. If you lean toward excess like I do, you got to really be careful. Okay, so when you're out in restaurants, let's say there's a fish special that the waiter or waitress is talking about, and they're describing the dish, and you hear them say, well, there's this marvelous salmon fillet, and it's served with sautéed Brussels sprouts or some other kind of vegetable, and rice pilaf on the side. You say, thank you very much. I'd like the salmon, but no rice. Please give me an extra helping of the vegetables. There's no restaurant in the world that won't do that for you. So it's easy to amend when you're out, dining out, certain meals to where if you want to have a protein meal, you can skip the starch. If you want to have a starch meal, maybe you go out for pasta, and you don't order the one with chicken or shrimp in it. Okay. Now this takes a little bit of discipline, but basically you can eat as much as you want. You can eat as much as you want of any food and not gain weight, and in fact lose weight. I did. When I started eating this way, I was dating a fella at the time. My weight was much higher then. Well, but not much higher. I mean, I've never been obese, but I weighed, I think at the time, like 135. I had yo-yoed with my weight for years. And I'd finally come to be at peace with my body. At that stage in life, in my 40s, I came to be at peace with a lot more stuff than I had in my 20s and 30s. But in any event, this fellow I was dating was Greek, and he took me to Mexico, and he used to say to me, Cher, you could put on a little weight, And to me, I was at my max, although I had weighed more in my life. I had weighed over 140 pounds, which for my tiny little frame, well, let's just say I was much more Zoftig in those days. I think my chest was the first thing you saw when I entered a room. So I'd come to a place of full self-acceptance with my body. I figured this is it, I can like myself this way. But I had heard this broadcast, and I thought, sounds like a healthier way to eat. Sounds like a healthier way, a better way to make use of the foods that I eat. Let me try this. So we went away for a weekend or something. We were gone like several days in, I think we went to Cancun. And I lost 4 pounds in those 4 days just by sticking to these principles. If I had toast in the morning, I'd have it with jam or with fruit. That's 2 carbohydrates together. That's doable. If I had an omelette, I wouldn't have it next to any potatoes or bread. I was really paying attention to this because I thought, I want to eat healthier. I've always sort of been oriented toward wellness and health and doing what's good for the body. Came home, I'd lost 4 pounds. I didn't think much about this at the time. I always lose weight on vacation because I'm swimming and I'm walking more and I'm just getting more movement in than I normally do. I didn't think much about it. But I'd noticed I'd lost several pounds, like immediately. Continue to eat this way. We used to cook like 4 humongous potatoes, he and I. Put plenty of butter on them, salt and pepper, and make some steamed greens. Kale and chard, Swiss chard, and throw a bunch of olive oil in there, and fresh garlic, ground garlic, and lemon, and salt and pepper. Fabulous. So that was our dinner. Properly combined meal, right? Starch and veggie. You can have all the vegetables you want, all the starch you want in a meal. Really, eat till your heart's content. And what you'll notice is you feel satisfied and sated quicker than if you're not combining your foods properly. If you're mixing starch and protein, your brain doesn't get the signal, I've eaten enough, because nothing's getting digested. On the other hand, if you're properly combining your meals, that food, the minute it goes down your esophagus and hits your stomach, it sends a signal to the brain. Okay, this is getting digested. I'm starting to get satisfied. My hunger is abating. Okay? Really interesting stuff. Fountain of youth. Swear to God. I used to presume that once my vanity had settled down, like at this age, I'd be a fat old lady. Remember, I had an eating disorder. I was a compulsive eater. So I used to think when I was younger, one day I'll just let myself go. My vanity won't get in the way of my indulging my appetites. And I'm very happy to report that will never happen because I learned about this principle. The food combinationists like Harvey and Marilyn Diamond And even Suzanne Summers years ago wrote a book on this with recipes, incidentally, for you. They believe that fruit should be eaten on an empty stomach, and not to eat anything else for like a half an hour after you eat your fruit or drink your juice, because the acid in fruit ferments anything else you put in your stomach and makes it indigestible. I remember my sister complained once after eating strawberries after a meal. She said, "Oh, I had such a stomach ache." Well, yeah, everything you ate came to a screeching halt, especially if there's protein in your stomach. Because the acid in strawberries just like really did a number on her. So fruit should be eaten on an empty stomach, or I found you could have pastry or toast with it, something carbohydrate. Peanut butter and jam sandwich or jelly sandwich is a properly combined meal. Peanut butter is essentially a carbohydrate. Yes, there's some protein in peanuts, but it's essentially a carbohydrate. So the peanut butter is carbohydrate, the bread's a carbohydrate, the jam or the jelly is a carbohydrate. That's an acceptable meal. If you want to have a peanut butter jelly sandwich for breakfast or jam sandwich, I do that once in a while for breakfast. You're fine. But when you go out to a restaurant, you want to order an omelette, and it comes with, hash browns on the side or something like that, and they bring rolls to the table. No. Ask for sliced tomato maybe on the plate instead of those hash browns. Or you can say, "Can you bring me a little box? I want to take the hash browns home and eat them for another meal." I used to do that a lot. Your body is not able to take nutrients from ill-combined food. Now, when I was a kid in grammar school, what they call grade school today, I guess, they were telling us eat from the 7 food groups, like in every meal. Dairy and starch and protein and on and on and on and on and on, and fruit, and it was the worst possible thing going. People who have put themselves on mono meals have lost weight immediately. And that's kind of how I've grown into eating. I just do it automatically and reflexively after all these years. And it doesn't even have to be a conscious sort of orchestration in my head. I just automatically, unless I have a hard-on for pizza or something, I combine my foods properly. And for an old tomato, I'm in pretty good shape and skinny. I am. So, and you can be skinny the rest of your life. I used to think to myself, how do thin people eat? I want to learn how to eat like a thin person and not have to keep watching my weight yo-yo and not have to keep going on diets and battle my weight. And I ended up eating like a thin person. Thin people, they're kind of grazers. They'll eat a little something here, and then they'll eat a different kind of food over here, maybe a few hours later. Or they eat very small portions of their food, of their meals. But still, if it's improperly combined, if you're mixing starch and protein, which is a major no-no, okay? Not to say, again, you can't do it once in a blue moon if you really have to, but 95% of the time you should be combining your foods properly. Eat all the vegetables you want with either starch or protein. But don't mix protein and starch in the same meal. This goes for breaded meats as well. Okay? You get used to this. It becomes a way of life. After a little while, you don't think anything of it. I've had clients, oh, and by the way, when you lose weight with proper food combining, you don't lose a pound gradually here and there as you go along. You lose like a chunk of weight. You'll lose like 3 to 5 pound chunks of weight all at once. It's just all of a sudden your jeans are much looser. You won't know how that happened or where that weight went, but it just comes off in chunks because your body acclimates to eating this way. It starts ridding itself of all the putrefied waste that's been sitting in your colon all these years from improperly combined meals. If you want to speed this process up a little, you guys that have beer bellies, you're hanging over your belt, that's a distended colon. That's an impacted, distended colon with putrefied waste that's clinging to the walls of your colon. That belt hangover stuff. If you want to speed this weight loss process along, get rid of that belly, go get some hydrotherapy from a colon specialist. Go for some high colonics. Sign yourself up for a series of them. They're not uncomfortable. They're very pleasant. It's not at all like taking an enema. The water goes in, it's pulled out. The water goes in a little bit, nice room temperature, body temperature, it's pulled out. And you can see all your waste going through the tubing that's taking it out of you. Colon therapists find all kinds of things stuck in people's colons from way back in childhood. Paper clips, little toys, marbles the children have ingested that are just sitting in the colon and all that impacted waste. So, proper food combining. When I go, if I'm invited to a Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner, I eat everything but the turkey or the ham. I like the desserts, so I eat the desserts. I have to be careful these days because my body's very sugar sensitive. But I'll eat the vegetables, I'll eat the salads, I'll eat some of the stuffing. I'll eat the yams, because these are all the things I like. And I'll take some turkey or ham home, and for another meal, maybe the next day or two, I'll throw it in a pan with some olive oil, and I'll season the hell out of it with cayenne pepper and garlic, granulated garlic, and a little salt, maybe if I need it. And I'll have that as a tasty protein meal. But I never eat the bird or the ham if I'm invited someplace for dinner. I'll take it home. But I enjoy all the other dishes, the side dishes, if I'm there. So I'm hoping this is helpful to you. This is tried and true. I've had clients go, man, I didn't believe you when you said chunks of weight will come off. And they've sat there and they've said, I used to have to lie back on your couch. This is when I was seeing clients face to face because these jeans were so tight. And look at all this room I've got now in them. And it just melted away. The weight just melted away. You'll plateau for a short time, maybe 2-3 weeks, and then another little 3 to 5 pound chunk of weight will come off if you are diligent with this. So on this way of eating, this way of living, you can literally eat anything you want. You just can't eat it all at the same time. Sometimes I'll just stop at one of these fast food places and order an extra big order of French fries. That's my meal. This morning, I cooked up an entire package of bacon for myself. I tweeted about this today, in fact, thick sliced bacon. And I usually put 2 rows of it in the pan because Otherwise, it's such a pain in the ass frying it because there isn't all that much room in the pan, and but on a low to medium heat, that bacon cooks through, even though it's doubled. That was my breakfast today. And I tried an experiment. I threw a bunch of fresh garlic, whole garlic cloves in there with the bacon. So not only did I have my bacon, which is one of my favorite things. I don't eat this way every day. Not because I couldn't, because fat won't kill you, but sugar will. But because I only eat it when I crave it, when I'm really in the mood for it, when I want it. And I had these browned and kind of roasted fresh garlic cloves. And wow, was that a great, great breakfast. And also, if you have trouble breaking down proteins, I'm a type O blood type. So my body does best on flesh proteins and veggies. We are the archetypal hunters, according to Eat Right for Your Type, which is also a book I bought years ago. Harvey and Marilyn Diamond, in chapter 6 of their book Fit for Life, said, look, a lion in the jungle will take down a wildebeest or a zebra or whatever, an antelope, but it doesn't, and eat it, but it doesn't have a baked potato alongside of it. It's eating flesh protein. It's getting what it needs for energy and maintenance. Now, it might end up eating some of that vegetarian creature's stomach contents, so it gets a little vegetable on the side. But this principle works. It's tried and true. I've been doing it for a lot of years now. And I can tell you it's the only thing that's worked for me long term. And it's effortless for me. You just get used to ordering this way. You get used to thinking this way about food. So try this for a while. Give yourself a couple of months. Just eat this way. Separate your starches and proteins. Just eat this way. And see what happens for you. And if you're looking to lose weight, this is a way to do it. And keep it off. I promise you, you'll never have a weight problem again if you properly combine your foods. And you'll be able to eat as much as you want of whatever you want. If you eat sugars, if you really have, like a craving for something sweet, let's say you're fantasizing about a huge piece of chocolate cake, go have it. Go have it. But have it either several hours in between real food meals, or have it as a meal. Have 2 pieces of chocolate cake if you want, as your lunch or your dinner. If you got to have it, go have it. Don't deprive yourself, but don't eat it as a dessert on top of food. What I found, I got very expert at this, how to have a dessert. Let's say I'm at a function and they're serving dessert and I have different choices. If I ate a protein meal, let's say I had fish on the plate and some vegetables, I would order a protein-based dessert like ice cream or custard or creme brulee. Okay? Not such a terrible, terrible thing. And if I had a starch meal, I wouldn't hesitate to order pie or cake for dessert or cookies. So you want to stay within that protein or starch paradigm. If you're going to eat a dessert, I recommend against it. Better to eat your sugars separately as a meal. Okay? I lost 15 pounds years ago without even trying while I was still dating that fellow. And he'd say, Sherry, you're getting too thin. Lost 15 pounds, eating as much as I wanted, even having a couple of chocolate bars mid-afternoon. Again, 3-4 hours in between real food. And I still lost that weight. It just melted off me. And I've never put it back on. So try this. I think you'll like it. I think it'll become a way of life for you. And I promise you won't feel deprived on it. And it's healthy for you. And you won't have to go for all those colonoscopies because all that putrefied waste is sitting in your colon and your intestines, creating irritation. So this is way healthier for you. You can probably avoid intestinal cancers, colon cancers. Okay? All right. Goodbye. God bless. And good luck.